Good afternoon, everybody. It's late afternoon here in Los Angeles, where we're at the Assembly of Canonical Orthodox Bishops annual meeting. And I'm really grateful here for the entire Ancient Faith Radio team that's out here with us as we're recording some of the great insights from some of our wonderful hierarchs. And I finally was able to get somebody who I've been wanting to get on video and on the air for a very long time. Now, Archbishop Michael is one of the really important hierarchs in New York and New Jersey. It's all New York, right? You have some in New Jersey. You have some in New Jersey, yeah, in the Orthodox Church in America. And obviously as a hierarch, that's clearly his jurisdiction. But there's two other incredible roles that he serves with the assembly. One is he's the treasurer of the Assembly of Bishops and does an amazing job with integrity, transparency, and accountability. And another opportunity I get to work with him very closely is he's the Episcopal liaison to the legal committee. So anytime there's issues that we're pursuing on behalf of the church, Archbishop Michael is our Episcopal liaison. And on top of everything else he finds time to do, he is a stalwart in his seminary where he teaches classes and he brings new seminarians forth into the church well prepared. So Archbishop Michael, thank you for finally agreeing to join this. Talk a little bit about the incredible integrity and transparency and details associated with how we finance the operations of the Assembly of Bishops.
Well, I think that it's a very important thing because we've got a lot of work to do, and we need a lot of support from foundations and the churches and dioceses and metropolises and people. And so to have all of the best practices, all of the correct audits, all of the facts and figures available online for people to see, that we're doing our job using their money as good stewards and following all of the guidelines for transparency is really important. We're really blessed that as the years unfold, that I've been serving this capacity, just to see how it's grown, the work that we're doing and the money that it's costing the people who are donating. And of course, one of the areas that we still do need donations from, I think, are really lay people blessed with, gifts from God, gifts that enable them to be stewards, to support the work of the combined efforts of the jurisdictions in this country to support the Orthodox Church in this land, and the Orthodox parishes in this land, the Orthodox clergy and Orthodox lay people, so that we can say, we've got an unqualified audit, that we can say we're following all the guidelines of what we say we're doing, and that everybody else is telling us from the standpoint of financial transparency and accountability that we're doing that job is really important. I'm blessed to have a team that, makes me look good. They work very hard. They advise me. We watch every, penny to make sure the accounts balance. But the important thing is that, they trust the people, and the clergy trust the work that the assembly's doing, and understand that we're doing it at so many people are volunteering from the assembly, not just the bishops themselves, but people like you, people on the various committees, experts in their fields. And so we need the support of people who believe in the great possibilities that the church has in this country as a united effort to accomplish great things. Like we just had a session on the mental health task force and the work that it's doing. That's so important. You look at the statistics on the website and you see how many people admit to needing the guidance and the support and the help that this committee and these programs are training individuals for to help our people. So, the support that we get, if you're someone out there who, believes in our church and believes in the possibilities, there are all kinds of boxes you can check to support. And believe me, I'll send you all my statistical proof that my financial reports to prove that we're doing the correct way of caring for your money and making all the transparency available to you.
Well, that was well said. And I will tell you, having represented a lot of public companies and private companies, the safeguards, the bells and weathers, the corporate delegations of authority, the audits and everything that you've implemented and that you've led is great. And those financial statements that you presented were as precise and as thoroughly prepared as I have seen them. So, and I think the other point you made, and I think this is a really good point, Your Eminence, and that is that for those people out there that have a particular passion of something that they would like to support, the Assembly is a valuable way to do that, whether it's the mental health initiative. You know, prior we got a generous donation to help support the Catholic Orthodox dialogue. There's so many other activities that the Assembly of Bishops is now really starting to move forward on that support is always great. Now we go from the side of the angels to the other side of the spectrum over there. I don't know why you volunteered to also be the Episcopal liaison for the lawyers. There's got to be a reason, something about you that caused you to just dip down to low to be our guidance.
This is a funny story, but it's a true story. If my mother were here, she would say the reason that I got on this legal committee is because she taught me how to read, and somehow she would say, I forgot to teach you the word no.
Okay.
I was asked, and I thought to myself, well, you know, they need somebody. They're asking me. I have to say yes. It's I believe in the work of the Assembly,
Yeah.
and I believe in what the legal committee is doing. You know, there are so many important cases out there that affect our parishes and our rights as a church in a postmodern culture. That if these wonderful legal minds who are schooled and are out in the front protecting the rights of people of faith, if you know, we don't work together to ensure the safety of the values that we have as a church, you know, we're going to lose great ground in this country.
Right.
And so that this legal team is on the ball, reading everything and being proactive, participating with other churches. We've filed a lot of amicus briefs with the Catholic Church in support of their efforts and vice versa. So I think those things are so important because, you know, statistics show, you know, you just gave us the statistics.
Right.
You know, it's like 47% of people today are saying, you know, they're going to be going to church. That's an all-time low in modern history for America. And so, you know, we have to, if we want to rebuild that number, we have to also ensure that all our rights and privileges as a faith-based family of churches is protected. And so we really depend on that legal committee and those great minds that make it happen. And there are a lot of lawyer jokes, and I could tell some of them.
I love them, so go ahead. You can let one rip if you want.
But the people that I know that work on this committee, they are committed to do not only what is good for the church, but what's right, period. You know, right according to the law. And so we just want to be there to ensure that the law protects the sincerely held religious beliefs of the Orthodox Christians in this country.
And I think that's a great bellwether of the Assembly of recent years, right? So the Assembly has now become more visible in taking and making affirmative statements, saying this is what we believe as Orthodox Christians, right? And at the same time, there's an encouragement of let's advance the legal arguments that we need to advance,
right,
and let's fight the fights that we need to fight. And they're all volunteers, so that's great. And as you point out, for the first time that I'm aware of, other major groups that are fighting for religious freedom are asking us to join them and are engaging on a mutual journey here. And I think that's a recognition of the role that the Orthodoxy can play,
right,
in the public world, right?
Absolutely.
In the public sphere.
Absolutely.
So, and for those of you that are interested in this kind of stuff, as the Assembly releases a public statement on an issue, it's available on the Assembly website. And as we file amicus briefs or engage in other legal activities, to the extent we can without confidentiality being disclosed, we share that also. And I just want you to know that, as His Eminence will attest, our legal committee calls are as energetic, is a way to put it, as one can imagine. With
sure.
It's kind of like the Supreme Court. There's the liberal wing and the conservative wing and the obstreperous wing, but at the end of the day, we reach consensus, and it's your patient guidance that brings a lot of value. But in top of running a critically important diocese in the OCA, in top of all the work you do as the treasurer of the Assembly and the chair of the legal committee, you also have perhaps one of the most important responsibilities, and that's the work that you do training seminarians and teaching seminarians and creating that next generation of clergy that are going to bring people closer to Christ and each other. Talk a little bit about what you do with the seminary and your journey there, and what you like about it, and what challenges or changes you've seen.
Well, my mom again would say, that she thought I should have been a teacher, not a bishop. That when I was 5 years, I don't remember this. I remember playing teacher, but she said when I was 5, I was teaching kids 7 and 8 years old.
Okay.
So I started teaching. I graduated from seminary and got ordained at 22. And at 23, the bishop who ordained me had a heart attack, and he asked me, while he was recuperating, to teach a course that he was offering, because he thought I was a good student and learned it. And it was an ethics course. So I've been teaching ethics, since 1973. And
boy, have you seen some changes in that?
And that's what I've seen. And that's what's so important. That's what's so important about the changes in our church. I think it's on a number of levels. When I was a kid and in seminary, churches were full.
Yeah.
People came to church every Sunday or almost every Sunday. If they didn't come, it was because they were sick,
right,
or they were out the night before, but they'd be back next week.
Right.
The figure 47% is just
staggering, isn't it?
Terrible.
Yeah.
There was a lot of activities for young people. I was in my parish church facility 5 days a week.
Yeah, the center of your life in many respects.
And now we have a hard time getting them 1 day a week.
Right.
So that's a big difference within the church. When I went to college, I was young. I stayed at the school near where I lived, and the first chance I got, I made my schedule work so that I could be in church.
There you go.
Kids go off to college, they go off from church unless we get connected to that OCF. I say to my people all the time, sending your kids off to college without connecting to the OCF is sending your toddler to play in traffic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not arming them with what they need for what they're going to face.
On the other hand, we have seen in this country a radical moral change. When I was in seminary, studying abortion was illegal, adultery was a sin, sodomy was criminal. It's all changed.
Yeah.
It's all changed. And the change that's happened in the last decade has been so rapid, between the redefinition of marriage, the whole acceptance and as the request for celebration of gay rights, gender fluidity. All of those things have happened. Roe v. Wade got overturned, and now you can just go into the drugstore and buy a pill that will.
Right.
So all of these issues have changed, and so the church needs to be able to deal with those questions in a healthy way, an educated way, but in a very brave way. And so that takes courage on the part of priests. And we're blessed, really, at least I think we all agree that there's been this incredible wave of young men coming to our churches, to our parishes as inquirers and catechumens, and now new converts.
Right.
And from those numbers, we're getting, future and present seminarians, future priests, God willing, in addition to those young men who are raised in our parishes all their lives. So it's important work. There's so much we could do, so much more I could do if I had more priests.
Yep.
In New York State, above Route 90, there's tons of counties without churches.
And yet, that is not only that whole area is populated, and when we look at the demographics of how religious those people are, they're the ones starving the most because they've wandered away from whatever religious tradition they want. So it's you have the combination of a fertile ground and the inability to satisfy the opportunities there. And you're saying the clergy is that missing ingredient, right?
And so now I think, at least in the OCA, I mean, I can say this on behalf of St. Tikhon's and St. Vladimir's, we have an outstanding number of students who are going to be outstanding numbers of priests, but we have so many priests who are about to retire or already working well beyond retirement age, that if they all cashed in and said, I want my pension, I can't even think about missions. I have to think about, maintaining. I mean, right now I have every parish covered. Just one retirement changes everything. Yeah. One call from God and I'm in trouble because I don't have spare priests in my back pocket.
There's a congregation there that's now without a spiritual leader.
So it's really so important. It's very important work for us to pray for as Orthodox Christians, that every parish that needs a priest has a spiritual father about to come out of seminary, and that we can provide spiritual fathers for places where we haven't opened churches yet. For me, it's a joy to be teaching there.
Still, after,
no,
you're still a young man, but after all these years, you still enjoy the challenge.
Oh, I love, well, you know what it is? It makes me young.
Okay.
To be in their presence and to see their idealism that I once had as a student, to see that, regenerated, and braver than ever to fight the crises and the battles that they have to fight that I didn't have to fight 50 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
It really is incredible. They are just, wonderful young men. And in our case, with the monastery that we have, the monks are forming spiritually, and that our faculty is teaching theologically, they're going to be, in the words of St. Paul, they're putting on the whole armor of God to fight the good fight. And so it's wonderful for me to go there, even though I drive 2.5 hours one way to go there.
That? I know you're a road warrior in many respects.
Well, it's just, it's something I want to do it. Like I'm going to miss my classes tomorrow. I've asked them to give me forgiveness, and I'm going to teach Friday all day so that I don't miss a class.
Yeah.
So I love doing that. It's just to hear their questions, to see their answers, to see their formation, to know that, one of my great joys is to stand next to my students. Well, when I was the dean, I would stand in second place.
Right.
But to stand with them at the altar, it's such a blessing, because I know that, the work that we've tried to do with them is going to live on.
Yeah, and in a meaningful way too. It's not just and again, I don't know because I didn't do that, but when you graduate from the seminary, it's not like just I got another degree. You've got a calling that's taking you down a road that has a lot of challenges along the way. It's not like you can be the 1600th person in your company or anything like that. That's really meaningful stuff. And I'll tell you, you're the expert, right? But I'm just teaching one 4-part leadership course to one of the seminary, and when I open it up for Q&A, even though I think I know all the questions they're going to come up with, I'm always astounded at the quality of the questions that come back and the genuine interest they have in stuff. And I mean, I'm sure you see that all the time in that regard. All right, so, but I want to go back to the first point you mentioned.
Let me just go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I just want to say the one thing we have to remember, we're sending them out into this world that is so different and so challenging. But the one thing that hasn't changed and that makes up for everything is the Lord's promise. I'm with you always, even to the very end of the world. So.
Yeah, that's pretty, it doesn't get any better than that. I'll just say right now, it doesn't get any better than that. All right, so you raised a point earlier that I think is really important, and no one else that we've spoken to has talked about that. And so I want your insights on this. So we know that the world is maybe a little bit crazier than it was, when you and I were younger, and there's certainly a lot of need for seekers and people that have wandered away. And we're short, no matter good job you do in recruiting, we're short on the number of clergy we get. So what insights can you give to either parents of young men who might be feeling the call, or young men who might be listening because they want to find out, or what can we do from the parish perspective to encourage the vocation succession? Because that obviously we're not filling that pipeline fast enough.
Sure. Well, I think that we say that young men have a calling. It's Christ that calls, and he calls through the church. So I mean, sometimes it's like my grandmother. She wanted me to be a priest.
She did?
Oh yeah.
What did your mother say when? Because
oh no,
your mom was a big influence, I can see. But what did Mama say when Grandma said she wanted you to be a priest?
But nobody ever thought it. When I made up my mind at 14 and I announced it, almost everybody was against it. I mean, my dad was certainly against it because he wanted me to make money, and and my family was divided, Catholic and Orthodox, and so his side of the family would take me if I went to a Catholic seminary. So I had some opposition. I went to the Mother of God, and I've depended on her ever since.
Yeah.
But I think that. But people in my parish, first of all, I had a priest who loved being a priest.
Okay, that's huge, isn't it?
And I wanted to be like him.
Yeah.
That was what it was. That was
What a
my
great
hero.
influence, mentor. Yeah.
And there was no stopping me. I saw in him joy that, like the Lord says, no one could take away from him. Even when he lost he had twin sons, he lost one of them in a tragic car accident, and he served that next day.
Wow.
With sunglasses on so he couldn't see the tears. But I thought this is somebody I want to be like. So I think that kind of encouragement from priests is important. They don't need to hear about all the problems. They need to hear about, the strength the Lord gives them, the commonality of their bishop and their priests, brother priests together, the joy that they have baptizing babies and doing marriages and being a part of the lives of all these young people, to see. So I think that's important. I think that lay people who see young men and older men involved in the church, you got to say, look, I start high and I'll go a little bit low if I have to.
So you're a negotiator.
This is how I negotiate.
Okay.
So listen, Bill, you should be a priest. And you say, well, I've got this career as an Orthodox evangelist for stewardship. I can't do it. Well, you can be a deacon then, because it does take up. See, I've got it. I've got it done. But this is a place for everybody. We need choir directors. We need all of those things because, again, the base number that we're working from is reduced given the population.
Right.
And even though we're growing, perhaps from immigration, we're growing, but we're not keeping up with the general population. We're shrinking in terms of percentages.
Right.
So what we have to pull from is less. So if we're not supporting our sons in our churches, what do we expect? We need those sons to become our fathers. So, parishes need to encourage kids who are, I have my subdeacons, my head subdeacon, his son is 6 years old. I keep saying, John, you're going to be a priest or a bishop. I tell him.
The 6-year-old.
The 6-year-old. I mean, he knows.
Yeah.
He's like been like a sponge. He's already been serving for 2 years.
Oh, okay.
He knows this stuff.
Yeah.
But you got to plant the seed.
Right.
And I said to his mom, take a picture of this, and then when he's 18, say, look.
Yeah. Yeah. There it is.
So they need to encourage. Priests need to encourage. I never knew. See, we had when I was a kid, we had 5 services a weekend in church. It's a huge parish.
That is a huge parish.
So we had vespers and matins, and we had 2 liturgies and then we had vespers. Again, I went to all those services, so I never knew there were parish councils and parish council problems. I never knew that there were any of those tensions on the worldly side, because I was always in the altar.
Yeah, you were on the godly side, and the other worldly side was raging outside.
So they don't need to hear all that stuff either.
Right.
The other thing is, coming to seminary, the demographics have changed. When I was in seminary with my classmates, all of us were single, and we could focus on our studies and formation, and then go find a wife and get married. Now it's a different demographic. It's older students who are married. Some have 5 children. Many of them are second faith. Some of them are second careers. Some are second ministries. So that's a whole different demographic. So the challenge of being a married student who can't work because the schedule is so demanding, where do you get your money from? So scholarshiping students is so important in dioceses and in parishes, and people who want to invest their money in a venture that's not going to give them dollars and cents as the interest. It's going to be they're going to have a son that's praying for them for their kindness and generosity to his vocation. So I think the church needs to encourage on every level. Seminaries have open houses, vocation weekends. I know that almost every diocese is doing its best to encourage with altar servers retreats and teen retreats, the role of young people in the church. That needs to happen. So it's got to be, this is a crisis for all of us. We're all in this arc of salvation together. We have to encourage at every level possible vocations. And it's simple, You see somebody, and I remember the Metropolitan of the diocese I was in, and he said, the bishop patted me on the head one day. You will be a priest one day, maybe a bishop. He remembered that, and he made it happen.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because my priest and the contributor to Ancient Faith Radio, Father Barnabas Powell, famously tells us in church, a healthy church makes priests. A healthy church raises priests. A healthy church encourages priests. So amongst the metrics that we should look at for healthy churches is, how many people did you send to the seminary? How many people? And it's even beyond that, right? Because there's so many opportunities for women to serve in so many capacities in church services now. I mean, and so what are we doing to encourage that? And what you're saying is that is a responsibility we need to address and start to. At
every level, all of us need to do that.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a family, and I like this imagery. Paul uses this word for the church, the ecclesia, the household of God.
Right.
And so, just like in a family, so you and I are, we're working, and so we're supporting the elderly who can't work anymore, and the young people who have yet to work. Mm-hmm. So that's our job, is to support them, to encourage them, literally to pay the bills for them, so that they'll be there to take care of us and the next generation when it's their turn.
Well, and that's why I'm going to maybe tweak a little bit of your words when you talk about invest in and not get at this. I think the way I would suggest we think about it is if you invest in offering a scholarship to a seminarian, you're actually going to get an infinite return.
Right.
Because not only will you have them praying for you and help you, but they're going to help so many other souls and so many other people that you will never meet and you will never see. And it's not for you to see it. And someday you'll stand before the judge of seat of Christ and he'll say, oh, by the way, let me tell you what you did, right? So that's a really powerful thing. Well, look, I know we have to get back to the meeting and stuff like that, and I know I twisted your arm and I misrepresented and told you it was only going to be about 10 minutes, and I think we went over the 10-minute limit. So
it's okay.
So in the negotiation, you played well. But I sincerely want to thank you for everything you do, not only for your diocese, not only for the OCA, not only for the financial aspects of the assembly, the legal committee assembly, but for the seminary, which is, I can see that spark is still in you and that emotion is still in you. And so you've got what it takes to do it. And for anybody out there who's thinking about the seminary, this is the kind of faculty that you'll have that will love you, that will care for you, that will teach you, that will train you. But you got to say yes to the Lord's ask. So, right at the end of the day, that's what it comes to.
At the end of the day, just to make that leap of faith and say yes. And trust that he'll take care of you through us.
And so far, so good, huh?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. We're going to take a short break right now as we go back to the assembly meetings. And later on today or tomorrow, we're going to continue this great dialogues on the Ancient Faith Radio platform so that you can start to get to meet all the incredible bishops, hierarchs that we have working every day for you and to bring people closer to Christ and each other. This is Bill Moranis from Stewardship Calling on Ancient Faith Radio saying see you later.